Take the exit. Turn right into the drive-thru.
Nope, I'm making dinner tonight.
You don't have time. Josh has practice.
Oh, that's right. I'll just get a salad.
And fries?
No, just the salad.
But salad cancels fries.
Salad only.
Fries.
Salad.
Fries.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on the road to successful weight loss.
Hey, can I get the...
Fries.
Salad. Sorry.
Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
Voices for Justice is a podcast that uses adult language and discusses sensitive and potentially triggering topics, including violence, abuse, and murder. This podcast may not be appropriate for younger audiences. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Some names have been changed or omitted per their request or for safety purposes. Listener discretion is advised.
My name is Sarah Turney, and this is Voices for Justice. Today I'm discussing the case of Marlena Childress. A 4-year-old girl disappears from a small Tennessee town, and almost instantly fear ripples through the community. Her family pleads for answers. Her neighbors rally around them. They organize, search, and hold on to hope that she'll be found safe. But then, just when it seems like the case couldn't get any more tragic, it takes a turn so shocking, it changes everything. This is the case of Marlena Childress. The sun is setting on Thursday, April 16, 1987, in the small town of Union City, Tennessee. We're in another close-knit town who's mobilized to look for a missing child, 4-year-old Marlena Childress. She lives on Division Street. Her mom, 22-year-old Pam Bailey, says she last saw Marlena at about 4 p.m. While Pam was tending to her 4-month-old, Marlena was running in and out of the house, playing on the porch and in the front yard. Then, Pam says that she heard the sound of someone slamming on their brakes. She thought Marlena may have been hit by a car. When she went out to check, Marlena was gone, and she saw a red car driving away. At 4:15 p.m., she called the Union City Police Department to report her missing. By about 5:30 p.m., the official search for her was in full swing with the help of the Union City PD, the Obion County Rescue Squad, the Fulton County Rescue Squad, and the Gibson County Tri-Rescue Unit, along with much of the community. Luckily, this is truly one of those all-hands-on-deck situations. They're only an hour and a half into this, and Union City Police Chief David Rhodes already has his command center set up at the Obion County Electric System building across the street from the Bailey home to coordinate the efforts, which were truly amazing. They had about 200 people searching fields, vacant buildings, trash bins, wherever they could think of. They also brought in a bloodhound and a German Shepherd from the Lake County Regional Correctional Facility. They track Marlena's scent for about 2 blocks until they lose it near a scrapyard south of her home. At about 8:30 p.m., Marlena's biological father, 24-year-old Kevin Morris Childress, is notified that she's missing. He lives about 20 minutes away in Martin, Tennessee, so he heads right over to help with the search as well. It's well after dark at this point, but the search continues via flashlights as local business owners and concerned citizens gather at the command center. They feed the volunteers and wait for any news. At the same time, Pam Bailey is driven around in a patrol car as she screams Marlena's name over a loudspeaker. While abduction is definitely a concern, they're searching anywhere they think a 4-year-old could get lost or crawl into, especially as temperatures dip into the low 40s. When Marlena was playing, she was wearing a white and purple checkered blouse, light purple pants, and jelly shoes with pink socks. She was dressed for the 70-degree high of the day, not the low. By 11 p.m., there's no sign of Marlena anywhere, and the search slowly comes to an end for the night. But in the morning, they're back stronger than ever. Some reporting estimates that there were upwards of 2,000 people helping in this search. That's about 20% of the population of Union City. On this day, they're also joined by a helicopter from the Tennessee Highway Patrol and 2 small planes from the Civil Air Patrol. The dogs are back out, and Crime Stoppers announced a $1,000 reward for information leading them to Marlena. Both Pam Bailey and Kevin Morris Childress tell police that they believe Marlena was kidnapped. Kevin specifically tells the media that Marlena is too shy to have walked off with anyone. And here is Pam Bailey speaking to the media on this day.
I don't care if somebody got her, if anything's done to them. I just want her back. And I know Marlena wants to come back. She doesn't want to stay with anybody else. And she's probably scared. And it's not right for anybody to keep somebody else's child. I was in the kitchen and I heard a car. And, I saw the car from the kitchen window. And I thought they might hit her or something because somebody slammed on the brakes, I thought. And I come in here and I looked out the window and I could see the back end of it. And I opened up the door and I couldn't see Marlena.
But Sergeant Ben Johnson tells the media that there's just no evidence to support the abduction theory. Quote, "We don't want to say anything right now. We have reason to believe that the girl just walked off." End quote. It seems that by day 2, they already have at least one witness who believes that they saw Marlena on the day she went missing. 10-year-old Rico Newberry says that he saw Marlena around 4:30 or 5 p.m. walking alone near a school 3 blocks from her home. He and his mother Regina were also a part of the search teams for Marlena. And Sergeant Johnson says that very cliche but very accurate line, that this is the first time anything like this has happened in Union City, and that the entire town is outraged about Marlena's disappearance. He also discusses their efforts to keep Pam Bailey calm and settled while they conduct their searches, though, as you heard, she does openly speak to the media. Unfortunately, despite these amazing and massive efforts to find her, and cooperation from the media, they don't find anything in these searches. Not around her neighborhood, not in the surrounding fields, not in the scrapyard. But of course, they're gathering as much information as they can, and as they interview as many people as possible, a very disturbing theory comes to light when Marlena's stepbrother speaks to police. He's only 7, but he says that on the day Marlena went missing, Pam dropped them both off at the grocery store a few blocks from their house to buy some candy. And he remembered that Marlena spoke to a man who was standing beside a red car. He didn't hear their conversation, but he did get a good look at the man and the car. And when they ask him to describe the car, it matches Pam Bailey's description of the red car she saw outside her home driving away when she went to check on Marlena. On top of that, when investigators go to the grocery store and speak with the manager, he confirms the same thing. He also saw Marlena speaking to a man beside a red car. This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Chewy. If you have pets, you probably know about Chewy, and you also know that when they say that they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and they're even rolling out vet clinics across the country. I've been shopping with them for a very long time. And in addition to the auto-ship feature that gets the dog's food to them every single month, I also love to experiment with different treats. But I'm a bit picky. For me, it has to be high quality with simple ingredients. I recently picked up treats from Shepherd Boy Farms that are 100% just chicken breast. Popcorn and Heber are already obsessed. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney to save $20 on your first order with free shipping. chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. This episode of Voices for Justice is brought to you by Quince. I've been trying to be more intentional about what I wear each day. I'm leaning into pieces that feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together. And Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are flattering, and everything just works without overthinking it. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra-soft denim. And the best part? Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. I recently just ordered their tiered linen dress, of course in black. I wanted to pair it with one of my favorite pairs of brown wedges. The problem was, I didn't have a brown purse. So I got that from Quince too. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's easy, effortless, and feels amazing, especially as we're getting a little bit warmer here in Phoenix. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/justice for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/justice for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/justice. 3 days into the search for Marlena, on Sunday, April 19th, her family and law enforcement hold a press conference to announce that they're looking for the driver of an older model red car with a torn white vinyl top that witnesses say was near Marlena when she went missing. The driver's described as a white male between 30 and 35 years old, about 5'11", 170 pounds with dark hair. He was wearing an earring in his left ear, had stubble in his beard, and was wearing a baseball cap with a Harley-Davidson emblem and a t-shirt with flags and eagles on it. They also announce a $10,000 reward for Marlena's safe return. This is offered by her maternal grandfather, Lloyd Strickland. He says this is a no questions asked type of offer. You give us the girl and we'll give you the money. He really is a driving force in Marlena's case, so you're going to hear a lot about him in this episode. But he's far from alone in helping. The very next day, the Find Marlena headquarters is established by her friends and family. Specifically leading the charge is Clara Ann Wyrick from Mayfield, Kentucky. She lives in the same community as Lloyd and his wife, Catherine. They actually own stores right next to each other in Mayfield. Lloyd owns a shoe repair shop, and Clara's family owns Wyrick Restaurant. So these are two pretty prominent members of the community leading the charge to find Marlena. Over the next few weeks, the searches continue, and the operation expands to multiple locations with over 1,000 volunteers. Lloyd ups the reward to $30,000 for Marlena's safe return. He also sends her flyer to every media organization he can find, along with a letter that states in part, quote, "It is possible Marlena may have been sold to a couple desiring a child, and a couple adopting Marlena may not realize she is an abducted child," end quote. They partner with truckers across the U.S. to share Marlena's flyer. They release balloons with her picture on them. Colonial Rubber Co. of Dyersburg puts her information on their tractor-trailer rigs. They obtain countless media opportunities for Marlena, and they show her flyer at the local movie theater before they screen their films. I'm not even telling you everything on this list, but I do want to say that they sent out over 300,000 flyers. And then shortly after that, they partnered with a media company to send Marlena's information to over 50 million homes across the U.S. Lloyd Strickland also hires former police investigator turned private investigator Stan Cavness to assist in the case. It seems that Marlena's loved ones and the community are really doing all they can to bring her home. And of course, the same goes for these investigators with the Union City PD. They send out Marlena's medical and dental records to healthcare professionals across the Mid-South. It seems that Marlena actually had quite a bit of dental work despite her young age. Specifically, she had those silver caps on her top and bottom teeth. This was obviously something they hoped would help identify her whether she was found alive or deceased. Investigators also tracked down the driver of the red car pretty quickly. He's questioned and cleared. Marlena's biological father and stepfather were cleared as well. And while we're here, let's talk a bit about this family structure and how it came to be. According to reporting by the Commercial Appeal, Pam and Kevin got divorced about 2 years before Marlena went missing. Like I told you earlier, Kevin lived less than 20 miles away in Martin, Tennessee. He retained his visitation rights and saw Marlena every other weekend. Now, Pam grew up in Martin, but after she married 31-year-old Johnny Bailey in January of 1986, they moved to Union City to be closer to his job at the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Co. plant. A year later, in January 1987, they had a son together named Damon. And Johnny already had a son from his previous marriage who was 7. He's the one who reported seeing the red car at the grocery store. So it was Pam, Johnny, his son, Marlena, and baby Damon in the home in April 1987. And all 3 of these parents come together to help look for Marlena, speak to the press, and push the efforts to bring her home. And at this point, there seemed to be good reason to believe that Marlena could be brought home, because on April 22nd, 2 hairdressers at Jean's Hair Salon in Memphis are certain that they just saw her. Gail Reich and Janice Wells say that 2 women, one in her 20s or 30s and one in her 50s or 60s, bring 2 children into their salon. One is a boy who appears to be about 6 years old, and the other is a girl who appears to be about 4 years old. And Gail says that as she's cutting the girl's hair, she was crying and kept repeating, "I want my mommy, I want to go home." Now at this point, she assumes that the younger woman must be her mom, but she doesn't console her in any way. Instead, the older woman says, quote, "Be a good girl, Marlena, and we'll take you to the movies," end quote. So they're kind of like, okay, that's weird, and they just go on about their day. Then Gail goes to a nearby convenience store on her break and bought a newspaper. That's when she sees Marlena's picture on the front page and realizes it's the girl whose hair she just cut. She wastes exactly no time and calls the police from the store. She's even able to provide them with the first 3 letters of the license plate on the car they were driving, MAR. Then she runs back to the salon to tell Janice, and she agrees that they just saw missing Marlena Childress. Here are Gail and Janice speaking with Unsolved Mysteries.
As soon as the little girl sat in my chair, she started crying for her mommy. And at the time, she was looking straight up at me, hollering for her mom, which it upset me because the 2 ladies did not want to console the child in any way. She was very upset.
And my station is right next to Gail's. And I was working on a lady at the time, and I could, get a good glimpse at her as she was crying. And I can't see a parent standing up and not consoling the child at the time. They act like they weren't the parents of the child.
The older lady handed her a pad, but the child didn't take it. And she did say, "Marlena, if you're good, we will take you to a movie."
So the search is on for this little girl. LeWade actually goes out to Memphis himself to follow up. He ends up believing that a local waitress may have been the younger woman in the salon that day. So he recruits Janice and Gail to go down to the restaurant, and they confirm she is the woman they saw with Marlena. He also presents them with a photo lineup of 6 male children, and they point out this woman's son. During this time, Gail and Janice start getting threatening phone calls to the salon, which they actually take as a good sign. They think someone's upset that they saw Marlena and that they're getting close to finding her. But of course, at this point, law enforcement has to step in. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation interviews the waitress. They administer a polygraph test, and she's cleared. Just 3 days after Gail and Janice made the report, the Tennessean ran an article titled "Child in Memphis Not Missing Girl." It was obviously a huge letdown, but the Find Marlena committee and volunteers just kept going. The searches and advocacy efforts continued. Pam and Johnny kept speaking to the media as well. In May, they did an interview from their living room while holding their baby Damon, saying he was the bright spot in all of this. However, by the end of May, the pressure on Pam Bailey appeared to be catching up to her. She checked herself into a hospital and was diagnosed with exhaustion. Her father, LeWade, told Steve Gaither for the Commercial Appeal, quote, "She's just completely gone down under all the pressure. She just needs to get some rest," end quote. And at this point, the community seems to rally around Pam. There are so many quotes from friends, family members, and neighbors describing her as a loving mother. A woman devastated by what happened. A woman who cared deeply for Marlena and for all of her children. Her neighbor, Elena Webb, told William Thomas with the Commercial Appeal that Pam had grown quiet and lost weight after Marlena disappeared. She seemed absolutely crushed. And I know that can sound like a trope in true crime. The grieving mother, the supportive small town, the neighbors insisting they never saw a hint of darkness behind closed doors. But Union City in 1987 really was the kind of place where people knew each other. It sits in the northwestern corner of Tennessee near the Kentucky border. The population's about 11,000, even today. It's small enough that neighbors recognized each other's routines, small enough that kids played outside together, small enough that people noticed when something was wrong. Of course, as I researched Marlena's case, I found not only descriptions of her mother Pam, but of Marlena herself. The people around her remembered a little girl who loved playing outside with the other neighborhood kids. Kickball, cartwheels, freeze tag. The kind of childhood that feels especially vivid in a town where people still sat on their porches and watched the street. And I mean that literally. William May, who also lived on Division Street, told William Thomas, quote, "There are always people out on the street in this neighborhood. They sit on their porches or in their yards, and they don't miss a thing." End quote. And when Marlena was home, she mostly liked to help. Her paternal grandmother, Marlena Childress, said that Marlena loved helping her make biscuits in the morning. And by the time that the last one was in the oven, Marlena would be covered head to toe in flour. She also helped her stepfather, Johnny Bailey, and she helped her mother with laundry. She adored her baby brother, Damon, who again was just 4 months old. When he was born, she even pushed aside her favorite Cabbage Patch dolls so she could help care for him herself, even with diaper changes. Marlena's not just a missing child. She's a little girl this town knows, a little girl this family loves, a little girl this community is grieving. Which is why what happened next was almost impossible for so many people to comprehend. After Pam Bailey gets out of the hospital, she confesses to killing Marlena.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. Any leads on who they might have been running for?
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
On Monday, June 8th, 1987, nearly 2 months after reporting her 4-year-old daughter Marlena missing, and just 9 days after being released from the hospital for exhaustion, Pam Bailey told investigators she had killed her daughter and disposed of her body in a nearby river. So let's break it down. Pam says that on the afternoon of April 16th, she was tending to her 4-month-old son Damon, and Marlena was misbehaving. She says she was running in and out of the house and just not listening. So Pam got frustrated, hit Marlena, and accidentally killed her. Now, I did see on some forums like Reddit that when Pam hit Marlena, she fell back and hit her head on the table, ultimately leading to her death. But I wasn't able to track that claim to a credible source, so I'd take that with a grain of salt. Even the affidavit only says, quote, "While in the heat of passion, she did strike Marlena Childress with her fist, a blow which killed Marlena Childress, age 4, and then transported her body to the Obion River in Weakley County, Tennessee." End quote. So take that for what you will. Either way, after making this confession at 9:30 p.m. that night, investigators asked Pam to show them exactly where she disposed of Marlena's body. And she brings them to the lower Campground Road bridge at the North Fork of the Obion River. When they get there, she goes to the exact spot to the west side of the bridge where she says she threw Marlena in the water. This area is about 15 miles from Union City, just north of Martin, Tennessee. So that's where they begin looking. Obion County, where Marlena was reported missing, and now Weakley County, where Pam says she disposed of Marlena's body, joined forces to search a 2-mile stretch of the river. This was between the lower Campground Bridge and the US 45E bridge. They search all night until about 4 a.m. and find nothing. Meanwhile, Pam is formally booked into the Union City jail, charged with second-degree murder, and held on a $100,000 bond. A judge also orders that she be placed under observation at a state mental health facility for a psychiatric evaluation. And these teams are not wasting time. After only an hour break, they're right back to searching the river at 5 a.m. on Tuesday. Again, they utilize every resource at their disposal. They have search teams, dogs, divers, aerial support. They do it all. Weakley County Sheriff Mike Wilson joins in too. He's literally scaling a ladder from the bridge down to the riverbank to lead the search teams. Marlena's grandfather, Lloyd Strickland, is there too. He doesn't speak with reporters, but he is there helping in the search. And it seems that someone may have tipped off the media, because reports start coming out that a man was seen at the Martin police station around 3 a.m., just hours after Pam Bailey confessed. Then, Union City Police Chief David Rhodes finally tells the public that Pam Bailey has confessed to killing Marlena, with the help of an accomplice. A man he won't name just yet. He only says that he's from the city of Martin, Tennessee. He also confirms that yes, the man was questioned very early in the morning, but released due to a lack of evidence to corroborate Pam's claims. At this point, the media goes absolutely wild, and reporters start swarming Pam's house and speaking to everyone they can about this recent development. And the statements are a bit split. Some people can't believe it, like Elena Webb, who lived next door. Kathy Christian, who lived down the block, told William Thomas with the Commercial Appeal, quote, "She wasn't a bad mother. She was over here Sunday, and she was real depressed. If she did it, I think something real bad happened to make her do it." End quote. Teresa Roberson, 2 doors down, said that she felt sorry for Pam and remembers her in the police car the night she was reported missing, screaming Marlena's name. But others, like William May, the one I told you about earlier, said he suspected Pam may have done something all along, because the neighborhood was so active, and no one could confirm her story about seeing a red car outside of the house when Marlena went missing. And you guys, even the mayor chimed in. Jimmy Jones said that he wasn't surprised either, saying he, quote, "talked frequently with the police chief, and little things he said led me to believe that something was not right about this case." As for the town, however, I will say that this is a good aspect to all of this. We do not have a kidnapper on the loose in Union City, and that ought to relieve the minds of many parents with children. There's been a lot of concern here since the child was reported missing. The bad side is that a little girl is apparently dead, despite the efforts of thousands of people from all over this part of the country. End quote. Which brings me right to Clara Ann Wyrick, friend of Pam's family and the person who spearheaded the Find Marlena committee. She said, quote, "I have no regrets. I would do the same thing again. I still can't stand the thought of a child being lost. But if what I hear is true, some people are saying God bless you, and other people are canceling the payment on the checks they've donated for this effort." End quote. She did express sympathy for Marlena's maternal grandparents, though. And she said that however people feel about Pam, they're still sticking by Lloyd and Catherine Strickland. And Catherine does give a statement too. It's short and sweet. She says that once she pulls herself together, she plans on going to the river to help search for her granddaughter. But The very next day, when Pam's husband and parents visit her while she's still in custody, Pam recants her confession, just 48 hours after telling investigators she killed Marlena. What ensues has been dubbed by the media as a world war between the Union City PD, the Find Marlena Committee, Pam's family, their lawyer, and PIs, and none other than this so far unnamed accomplice. It is absolutely insane, so let's get into it. After searching the river for 5 days, the Martin PD and Union City PD hold a press conference on June 15th, and they announced to the public that they found nothing in the river. But they also announced that the man Pam Bailey named as her accomplice was 65-year-old P.L. Summers of Martin, Tennessee. According to Pam's confession, he is who she ran to after accidentally killing Marlena. He is who instructed her to dispose of her body in the river, and he is the person who physically helped her do so. So basically, they're looking for information from the public to corroborate Pam's confession. 9 days later, on June 14th, enter Pam's lawyer, 50-year-old Wayne Emmons. Really, the best lawyer LaWade Strickland's money could buy, it seems. He was a part of the Find Marlena committee, but more importantly, he was a criminal defense attorney for 19 years. And he was a former district attorney general for Dyer and Lake counties in Tennessee. So he's good. On the 24th, he holds his own press conference to announce that his client's confession was false. And while he doesn't name P.L. Summers directly, he explains that Pam Bailey didn't kill Marlena. Instead, she was covering for the man formerly named as an accomplice. He says this man sexually abused Pam Bailey for most of her life before entering her home and taking Marlena against her will. Here is Wayne Emmons.
Pam has told all of us that on the day of Marlena's disappearance, this person came to her house, and when she refused his sexual advances, said that he would instead take Marlena to get some candy. Pam has told us that she resisted, but that he took her over her protest. Nobody's been found. A confession taken under the most suspicious circumstances imaginable is all the evidence the state has. If they've got more, then they haven't come forward with it yet.
So why did Pam make up the story of him being an accomplice instead of just telling police that he took her daughter? Well, Emmons has an answer for that too. He says it was Pam's former private investigator, Stan Cavness, who emotionally coerced her into confessing. Here's Pam Bailey in her own words.
At that time, I had just gotten out of the hospital. I had been in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I was on quite a bit of prescription stuff that gave me nerves and everything. And so he said that if I'd stick with him, that he wouldn't let me go to electric chair. And during that time, I didn't know any better. I thought I was going to an electric chair for something I hadn't even done.
I know some of that was hard to make out, but basically Pam says that she was on prescription drugs, thought she was facing the electric chair for a crime she didn't commit, and trusting her PI Stan Cavness, she falsely confessed. But PI Stan Cavness doesn't just sit by and let this happen. Literally at the press conference after Wayne Emmons says all of this, Stan pulls out a tape recorder and begins playing Pam's confession for all the journalists there. Now, Pam's lawyer said that he didn't know this tape even existed. So in the archival footage, you can see him watching in disbelief as this man debunks his story at the press conference he organized to clear his client's name.
After Emmons' announcement, the attention suddenly turned to Cavness, who surprised everyone, including Emmons, by producing a tape of the confession, a tape that Emmons admitted he had never heard and didn't know existed.
Here's a small part of what Cavness plays for the press.
I threw in myself.
You're not thinking this up just because you're afraid.
No, I threw in.
Again, I know it's a bit hard to hear, but Pam says that she threw Marlena in the river herself. Cavness asks, "You're not making this up just because you're afraid." And Pam says again that she threw Marlena in. Now, there is another portion of this tape available, but no matter how hard I tried to clean it up, it's very hard to hear without captions. So I'm just going to tell you what it says. Cavness says, "Just tell me the truth now, Pam. Is everything you've told me so far been the truth?" Pam says, "Yeah." Cavness says, "Don't make up anything." And Pam says, "I'm not. She's down there, in the water." Cavness asks who brought Marlena down to the water. And Pam says, "Me and PL." Cavness asks, "What did you bring her down here in?" And Pam says, "The truck." Cavness says, "Tell me the truth." And Pam says, "We brought her down here in the truck." So all of this happens at the press conference. And Cavness doesn't play the whole tape, just about 5 minutes. But this obviously causes a huge stir. And not just because of this public confrontation. This is the first time investigators hear Pam's new story as well. Basically, everyone is finding out new information or new accusations during the press conference. And just like Stan Cavness, P.L. Summers has something to say. The very next day, after weeks of silence, he hand-delivers copies of a 4-page letter he wrote to the news and radio stations across the city. It's time to talk about P.L. Summers. He'd been in Martin, Tennessee for basically his entire life. And he did know Pam Bailey, really for her entire life. They were neighbors when she was Pam Strickland. And P.L. is really a pillar of this community. When the accusations against him came out, a former police chief who was also his neighbor said he was one of the nicest neighbors you could have. Many people have stated similar sentiments about P.L. Summers. He was a World War II veteran. When he returned, he worked for General Telephone Company for 40 years and became their district manager in the late 1950s. He sometimes helped Pam's parents by picking her up from school and taking her back to his offices for about an hour before taking her back home at the end of the day. Eventually, Pam began modeling for the General Phone Company ads since she was already at their offices. But it appears that there was an incident in the office between P.L. Summers, Pam, and another boy who was in the offices that led to Pam no longer being invited there anymore, and eventually P.L. Summers' early retirement. I'm not being intentionally vague. The details are fuzzy for sure. Employees have been tight-lipped, or they said that they were just told that he was retiring early. Whatever happened didn't result in any criminal charges, and the police refused to elaborate altogether when asked. So we don't know what happened there, but we do know that Pam left Martin, Tennessee when she was 16. Flash forward 6 years later when she's 22 in Union City in 1987. Now she's blaming P.L. Summers for the disappearance of her 4-year-old daughter, Marlena. And like I said before the break, P.L. Summers had something to say about it. The 4-page letter he hand-delivered to the media. It is long, but it gives so much information that was never publicly released before, so I'm going to read it to you. Quote, "In view of the allegations that have been recently made associating my name with the disappearance of Marlena Childress, I feel it is important that a truthful statement of facts be made. On the date of the disappearance of Marlena Childress, April 16, 1987, I worked at my place of employment in Martin from approximately 7:30 a.m. until approximately 11:30 or 12 noon, and returned to my place of employment at approximately 3:50 to 4 p.m. These facts have already been verified by numerous police officers and by my employer. On the night of June 8, 1987, at the Martin Police Station, I was told I was allegedly involved in the disappearance of Marlena Childress in a time frame from 4 p.m. until 5:15 p.m. Officers from the Union City Police Department have verified through my employment records, by discussions with my fellow employees, and by discussions by witnesses who were with me in my home from 4:10 p.m. until 6 p.m., that I could not have possibly been in Union City and the Campground Road area or with Pam Bailey during the time she claims I was involved in the disappearance of Marlena. Many credible witnesses have discussed these facts with officers from the Union City and Martin police departments, and have verified that I could not have been in Union City or with Pam Bailey during the time she claims the child disappeared. It has further been stated that cassette tapes are available to prove telephone conversations between me and Pam Bailey. I asked the person who claims to have those cassette tapes to produce them to the Union City Police Department or to the District Attorney General. I deny that there are any telephone conversations between me and Pam Bailey, and deny that there are any such cassette tapes. The only telephone conversations of which I am aware were made to me by the Martin Police Department after Pam Bailey had been taken into custody on the date of her confession of June 8, 1987. These telephone calls were made to my home at approximately 10:30 p.m. on June 8th, and they were reported by me to the Martin Police Department immediately. It is further alleged that I called Pam Bailey at her home on the date that she confessed, which was June 8, 1987. I deny that I called her home. In fact, I was of the understanding that she did not have a telephone in her home. My attorneys were informed today that the police had placed a telephone in the home after the disappearance of Marlena. I would assume that any conversations made to that home are recorded and can be verified. Again, I deny calling her home, and I deny that I have called her home at any time or contacted her in any way during or after the disappearance of Marlena. Within a few days after Marlena Childress disappeared, I was questioned by not only the Union City Police Department, but by agents of the FBI. I voluntarily participated in that investigation. I was asked to submit to a lie detector test or a polygraph. I did this willingly within 2 or 3 weeks after the disappearance of Marlena Childress. I was told that fingerprints had been located in the truck owned by Pam Bailey, which could possibly be the fingerprints of the person involved. I voluntarily and willingly allowed my fingerprints to be taken by the officers. I was also told that hair samples had been found in the truck, and I voluntarily allowed hair samples to be taken from me for comparison. When I was first taken into custody at the Martin Police Station on the date of June 8, 1987, I waived all Fifth Amendment rights that I had, and waived all rights to remain silent, and voluntarily submitted to questioning by officers for more than 3 hours. I also voluntarily submitted the names of those reputable people who could verify where I was on the date of the disappearance of the child. Those witnesses were questioned by the police that night prior to my attorneys or myself having an opportunity to talk with them. This can be verified by Paul McCullen, David Rhodes, and Ken Reiger, all of the Union City Police Department, and by numerous officers who were present at the Martin Police Department. Since the disappearance of Marlena, I voluntarily submitted to the search of my home and automobile by agents of the FBI and the Union City Police Department. And I have been questioned extensively by officers at a time that I could have refused to answer any questions. I have cooperated 100% with every officer who has allegedly been involved in this investigation, and it is my understanding that the statements that I have made to the police officers have been verified by reputable people from Martin. At this time, I am 65 years old. During the time that I have been an adult, I have never been charged with the commission of any criminal offense. Several years ago, I received a speeding ticket in Texarkana, Texas. To my knowledge, that traffic offense is the only record I have. A search of all the records of the courthouse of Weakley County or Obion County should establish that I am not at this time, and I have never in the past been accused or suspected of any criminal activity. I have worked for my present employer for approximately 9 years, and I worked for my prior employer for approximately 30 years. During these 39 years I've lived in Martin, Tennessee, I have not been accused of any crime or criminal offense. Approximately 2 years ago, my wife and I did see Pam Bailey and her husband and Marlena working in her father's yard in Martin. I have not seen her either accidentally or intentionally since that occasion." End quote. Again, I know that was a lot, but P.L. Summers really laid it all out on the table, assuming he's telling the truth. And it does seem that investigators believed him, because on September 2nd, 1987, Martin Police Chief Jackie Moore told the media that his department was exiting the investigation into the disappearance of Marlena Childress due to insufficient evidence a crime occurred in their jurisdiction. He added very specifically that they've concluded that P.L. Summers was not a suspect as far as his department was concerned. Basically, they don't believe any of Pam's stories about what happened to Marlena, and they're no longer working the case. That same day, Lloyd Strickland announced that he increased the reward for information leading to Marlena's safe return from $30,000 to $50,000. Now, by this time, Pam was already out on bond, and her second-degree murder charges were reduced to voluntary manslaughter. Her trial was set for October, and her loved ones stood by her. After investigators basically dismissed Pam Bailey's claims, the Stricklands began publicly criticizing how they were handling the case. And not long after Chief Moore's statements, the Find Marlena Committee sent out letters to the media stating that their new PI, Renfro Hayes, found a new witness who says they saw a person in a blue car speaking to Marlena outside of her home on the day she went missing. And in what appears to be the last known battle in this world war, as the media dubbed it, Union City Police Chief Rhodes speaks to the media about this letter. He says this witness who saw the blue car that they discussed has been interviewed repeatedly by the Union City PD, the TBI, and FBI, and that their statements don't match P.I. Renfro Hayes' claims in the letter. But he adds that he's happy to interview the witness again. He also directly states that Hayes, quote, appears to be conducting operations to clear Pam Bailey and the statements she has made, end quote. And Rhodes chastises them for announcing this lead to the media instead of going directly to law enforcement. But he ensures everyone that everything they have in Marlena's case will be handed over to the Attorney General. It seems the war was over. And then, absolutely nothing happens. The charges against Pam Bailey are dropped completely, with prosecutors citing a lack of evidence to proceed. But not everyone stands by Pam's side in the end. Marlena's biological father, Kevin Morris Childress, was compelled to speak under oath during Pam's court hearings. He said he never thought Pam was capable of murdering Marlena, but he did outline instances of abuse that concerned him in hindsight. He says Marlena once came to his house with a large knot on her head and a black eye. Pam told him that she spanked her for standing up on a rocking chair, causing Marlena to tumble out of it and hit her head on a table. In another instance, Marlena had friction burns on her knees. Pam said that Marlena was crawling on the floor and acting like a baby. As punishment, she made her crawl on their wood floors for the rest of the day, and she forced her to eat baby food. These claims were supported by Kevin's mother, Arlette Childress, Marlena's grandmother that loved baking biscuits with her no matter how messy it got. She says she saw the bruises and the black eye around October 1986. Pam Bailey's new husband stood behind her, though. He said Kevin's claims were false. Johnny Bailey stood with Pam Bailey through a lot. Around the year 1990, they had another son together, and life seemed to go on without Marlena. There were reported sightings of her over the years, but nothing panned out. And the town of Union City, Tennessee was left wondering if Pam Bailey was truly the monster she was painted out to be, if one of their own could really do something as terrible as killing their own child. That is, until the year 2002. Actually, almost 15 years to the day that Pam Bailey reported Marlena missing. On April 22, 2002, Pam Bailey was arrested in Mayfield, Kentucky, on an attempted murder charge. Not for Marlena, but for her 12-year-old son. It was premeditated. She told him they were going somewhere for a surprise. As they're driving, she tells her son to put on a blindfold. She then drives him to a cemetery, and while he's still blindfolded, she leads him to a gravestone with the word son on it. She instructs him to sit down and then begins stabbing him. Now, thank goodness, he is able to fight his mother off and run for help, so he survived to tell the story. This also prompts investigators to reopen Marlena's case. I mean, she's obviously more than capable of killing one of her children, so they're doing whatever they can to make charges stick for Marlena, too. Now, when it goes to court, Pam Bailey says that she blacked out and has no memory of trying to kill her son. She pleads no contest to second-degree assault and gets 10 years in prison. And while Pam and Johnny do get a divorce, in 2004, he's right back at Pam's side advocating for her early release. And of course, she is eventually released. And as far as I could find, walking free among us all as you hear this right now. According to reporting by Action 5 News, as of 2012, they do have DNA samples for Marlena, and they have put them into a national database. The only other update I have for you is that P.L. Summers maintained his innocence until he passed away in 2013 at the age of 91. As of this recording, no further charges have been brought against Pam Bailey or anyone else in relation to the disappearance of Marlena Childress. Which brings me right to our call to action. To be extremely frank, it's unacceptable that Marlena Childress is still without justice. She was 4 years old. 4. And nearly 40 years later, this case still feels like it's never gotten the level of attention, scrutiny, or pressure it deserves, which infuriates me. With the advances we've seen in DNA and cold case investigations, there's no reason Marlena's case should be forgotten or treated like it's too old to solve. It's not too old, and she's not forgotten. So if you care about this case, if something about this episode moved you, do something. Share Marlena's story. Push it farther. Keep her name in people's faces. Because the more pressure this case gets, the harder it becomes for justice to stay out of reach. As a reminder, Marlena Danyele Childress was just 4 years old when she vanished on April 16, 1987, from Union City, Tennessee, where she was last seen playing in the front yard of her family's home. She was 4 feet tall, weighed about 38 pounds, and had light brown hair and blue or hazel eyes. Her ears were pierced, and she had silver or stainless steel caps on her top and bottom front teeth. The day she disappeared, Marlena was wearing a purple and white checkered shirt with lace trim, light purple pants, and pink jelly-style shoes. Anyone with information is asked to call the Union City Police Department at 731-885-1515. But, as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Voices for Justice is hosted and produced by me, Sarah Turney, and is a Voices for Justice media original. If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and free way to help us and help more people find these cases in need of justice. Welcome to the Secret After Show. The studio door is open, and our emotional support puppies, Popcorn and Heber, are in the room. Let's go right into the case, because I'm still mad. I'm still mad. Literally the first thing on my list is OMG, I cannot believe the way that this case unfolded. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that the justice system seriously lacks common sense. It really does. And it's hard, right? I get it. We have to protect the accused as well as the accuser. But in situations like this, I just wish there was something they could do. Surely, they don't just need DNA. They don't just need Marlena's body. And I have to imagine that they have so much more than they're telling us, which is why I read P.L. Summers' letter, right? Because that's not really something the media was reporting on before he released it. I mean, them having the hair, them having the fingerprints on the truck, obviously they have something. Maybe not enough. Maybe they're just not using it. Like I said, there hasn't been an update in this case for a very long time. But with the anniversary approaching, I hope that something happens, that maybe some type of media pressure can push somebody to take another look at this case. I don't know. The next thing I have on my list is this media world war, which so like when I research these cases, right, obviously you have to start somewhere. I have like a giant research doc that I do, and I just start like inputting things like, oh, they say that this is her biodad, and I start putting that under biodad and cite my source, you know what I mean? And it was just one after the other. It was like, oh, there's a press conference here saying this. And the next day, they refute that by saying this, and the media is calling it a world war. What is happening? And then I start finding the archival footage, and it was insane, you guys. It's listed on the sources on my website. If you guys don't know, I do post over on voicesforjusticepodcast.com. The cases have their own page where I give, a very brief synopsis. I post pictures, stuff for you guys to see, and I also cite my sources. So if you want to see it, part of it was unsolved mysteries, but then part of it was, bless the people on the internet who put these things together. Part of it was a YouTube compilation of media coverage from the 80s about Marlena's case, which is so helpful. But in it, you can see, right? You can see Wayne Emmons, Pam's lawyer, make these statements like there's a grave injustice here and, blah, blah, blah. And the way that this confession was coerced by emotional terrorism, he didn't say that, but you guys know what I mean. And then it's like, oh, and then the PI, Cavness, right? He stands up and he starts playing the audio for the journalist. I was losing my mind, and I was like, go you, Cavness. I think that's the way to do it, right? Is fight fire with fire, fight it with facts. The way he was accusing this man of emotionally coercing Pam Bailey, which again, I can't say for sure. I have not heard that whole recording. To my understanding, it's never been released in full. But for him to have the gumption to just stand up and say, nope, I've got it right here, and he just starts playing it for journalists, I haven't seen anything like it. And I thought that was incredible and very bold. And if he is lying, an even bolder move. I do have to say, I couldn't fit this into the episode. It just didn't feel appropriate. But I was laughing when I saw this. It was like this tiny little snippet in an article, and it talks about Wayne Emmons, right? And basically, like, while he's doing all this stuff for Pam Bailey, he does this like cowboy skit. And it goes viral on the local radio on these like country stations. And it's like a comedy thing. So he talks about how eventually he wants to like leave the legal field and become a comedian. And I just want to say, Wayne, I don't know if you're still out there, but maybe perhaps that is a good pivot for you. Maybe, do some comedy instead of defending people like Pam Bailey. Boy, follow your dreams. But I feel so sassy. And you guys really seemed to like me sassy last week. So I'm good at inserting some sass because it's truly how I feel. Like, I try not to make these episodes dramatic because I feel like that's not appropriate. But when I genuinely get fired up, right? Just like when I genuinely get sad, like I'm not going to sit there and re-record something to sound more robotic versus like when I get a little teary-eyed. So when I get sassy, I like to leave it in because I think that it conveys real human emotion that I imagine you guys are feeling right along with me, that you guys tell me you're feeling right along with me. So, thank you for the positive feedback about the sass. Sometimes I do get a little self-conscious about it. I never want to be like on a soapbox screaming at people, but I like showing the sass, so I think it's here to stay. Now on to the media discrepancies. They're really, like, it was so many articles, right? And so many archival articles. And aside from, like, some time differences, it was pretty good. Even the Unsolved Mysteries episode was pretty good. It's like maybe 17-minute segment or something. It's pretty short. So that was, like, my only gripe with them. It was just, there was so much to this case, and they left out so much. It was so short. That I couldn't understand why they focused on what they did. But perhaps it was like a matter of not wanting to accuse people of things. I don't know. But it seemed fine. It was just kind of short. And I will say that it was definitely valuable for a lot of the audio you heard in this episode. Which brings me right to our heroes of the episode. I'm not going to lie. This week was hard, you guys. There was no one that I was like all about. I should say, I didn't have him on the list, but I just thought about it now. The sheriff of Weakley County, who was like leading the search teams, you can be a hero. Let's make you a hero of the episode. I remember reading that and I was like stunned. I was like, wait, the sheriff himself is helping lead the charge? Like, that's amazing. Maybe I'm just like a city girl, but usually in my experience, the sheriff or the police chief kind of sits back and lets the other people do the dirty work. So you're a hero. You're an impromptu hero. Next on my list are Gail and Janice, our ladies at the hair salon. It wasn't Marlena, right? But they were so passionate and they did all the right things when they thought it could have been her. I mean, reading about was it Gail or Janice? I forget. Reading when they went on their break at work, and then they're at the convenience store grabbing, like a drink or whatever, and they see Marlena in the paper, and immediately to the store clerk, I think I just saw this girl. They used the phone at that store, not even going back to the salon. They call the police right away. Runs back to the salon, confirms it with the other stylist, and then they help. They help the Stricklands track down this lead and eventually eliminate it, which, again, even though it wasn't Marlena, it is valuable to eliminate it. So, Gail and Janice, you are some of our heroes of this episode. Last but not least is P.I. Cavness. I couldn't, again, it kind of makes me feel bad because we don't know if that confession was coerced, but like, give me a break. Like, Pam Bailey literally tried to stab her other child to death. So do I think the confession was coerced? Personally, not really. So P.I. Cavness is a hero of this episode for, sitting there during the press conference saying, hold on, let me just play this for you guys, while Wayne Emmons, our comedian, prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, sits there stunned. I've just never seen anything like it, so P.I. Cavness, you also make our heroes of this episode. But let's go on to our segment of hope. This is from January of this year, written by Peyton Yeager and Tracy DeLotte from Fox 4 in Dallas, and the title reads, Dallas Police Solve Missing Persons Case After 52 Years. The article reads, in part, family members reported 16-year-old Norman Prater missing on January 4th, 1973. So long ago. The teenager was last seen in East Dallas walking with friends, but he never made it home. 6 months after Prater's disappearance in July of 1973, an unidentified white male was killed in a hit-and-run in Rockport, Texas, near Corpus Christi. Despite police and local news outlets pleading for public assistance, the body was never identified. But at the end of 2025, the Aransas County Medical Examiner's Office found a new photo of the unidentified body and passed it on to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. No shock there, they are always helping out these cases. But it says that new photo made its way to Dallas detective Ryan Dalby's desk. He, along with a forensic analyst with the Texas Rangers, agreed it was highly likely that this newly obtained photo was of Prater. Prater's older brother in Louisville was contacted and shown the photo. He also made a positive identification. With no DNA evidence or fingerprints to compare, that new photo was crucial in closing the case after 52 years. And Detective Dalby describes what the brother said to him, and I'm going to try not to be emotional, but he says, quote, "He just looks at me and goes, 'That scar right there on the lip, that's where he got bit by a dog. That scar on the eyebrow, that's where he got into a fight. That's my brother.' We can close the case now. To bring closure to a family member who has been waiting 52 years, I really can't describe how I feel. It's just so amazing. But the case is still unsolved. The article goes on to read, Detective Dalby still doesn't know how or why Prater was near Corpus Christi. He suspects the teenager was hitchhiking in the early 70s. As for the hit and run, that investigation remains unsolved. But with an identity, authorities down there have a chance to solve it. The article also adds, Prater's case was the longest cold case missing persons investigation in the history of the Dallas Police Department. I thought that this was such a great segment of hope, especially for this episode. We're looking at another case that's been sitting for a long time, another missing child, and look at this. It was solved without DNA, without fingerprints, just through some old school sleuthing. It's really cool to see. And I hope that, his family gets even more answers now that they have this bit more of information. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time.